Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going over part 2 in this series with this DeWALT DCD996. In this episode, we're going to be going over pretty much the performance of this drill with the 5 amp hour battery and the 9 amp hour flex volt battery and see how it really stacks up against everything else in the market. So, stick with us. Alright guys, so in part 1 of the series, we went over this drill top to bottom, paired it with a 2 amp hour battery, put it on a test track, got some numbers. It didn't do too bad, didn't do too great either, right? So in part 2, we're going to be continuing on with performance testing the DeWALT DCD996 with a 5 amp hour 20 volt max battery and a 20 volt max 9 amp hour battery, aka flex volt 3 amp hour battery, alright? So if you haven't checked out part 1, go ahead and check that out now, or don't check it out and just watch this one, right? So without too much further ado, let's go ahead and put it on the track. All right, so those numbers went by definitely a little bit faster than the 2 amp hour battery numbers. So let's go ahead and get a recap, right? So first, let's go look at the 5 amp hour battery. So the DeWALT DCD996 paired with a 5 amp hour battery on the 5/16 inch by 6 inch lag test. First run, 2.49 seconds, peak torque 142. Second run, 2.46 seconds, peak torque 150. Third run, 2.47 seconds, peak torque 131. and it still had to do that on speed 2. It was not able to complete that on speed 3, okay? Averaging those 3 runs, the average comes out to 2.47 seconds and a peak torque of 141 inch-pounds, all right? Moving on to the half-inch lag test. First run, 10.44 seconds, peak torque 399. Second run, 8.19 seconds, 379. Third run, 8.3 seconds, peak torque 359. It did have to drop down to speed 1 to complete that challenge, and the average of the 3 runs comes in at 8.98 seconds with a peak torque average of 379 inch-pounds, all right? So the thing to note about that here real quick is we did have to restart the drill after it, like stopped on the first run. So that definitely plays a little bit of factor into it, but we're just running the numbers as it is and see what happens, right? Moving on to 3/4 inch auger test. First run, 5.21 seconds. Second run, 5.22 seconds. And it was actually able to complete that challenge on speed 3. All right, the average of this 2 runs comes in at 5.22 seconds. All right, moving on to the 1/4 inch masonry test. First run, 4.06 seconds. Second run, 3.39 seconds. Third run, 3.15 seconds. Averaging the 3 runs, the average comes out to 3.53 seconds, all right? And the peak torque measured across all of the tests that we did for the 5 amp hour battery comes in at 399 inch-pounds, all right? So the 996 kitted with the 5 amp hour battery weighs in at a whopping 4 pounds, 12.3 ounces, all right? So the DCD996 kitted with a 5 amp hour battery weighs in at a whopping 4 pounds, 12.3 ounces, all right? So let's go take a look at the total performance number of this drill, right? So the total performance number of this drill with the 5 amp hour battery comes in at a whopping 16.67 seconds, all right? So where does that stack up? Currently, I believe that puts this drill in 6th place, right behind the Milwaukee 280420. That's the Gen 3 fuel drill kitted with a 5 amp hour battery, right? But right in front of the Milwaukee 2804, same drill, kitted with a 3 amp hour high output battery, okay? How did we get the number? We pretty much added up the averages of the 5/16 inch lag test and the 1/2 inch lag test and the auger test. We do not include the masonry numbers in the total performance score. Why? Mainly because all the drills that we test are not going to be hammer drills, and anybody doing any real masonry test is going to have a dedicated SDS drill, right? So, or any real masonry hammer drilling mode or whatnot, right? So I'm sure someone's going to argue out there, when you include the hammer drilling masonry numbers, the DeWALT drills are going to do better, and that's probably true, and you can feel free to add them up if you want. I mean, the numbers are on the screen. I'm assuming we're going to throw them up there, and that'll probably be true, right? Because the DeWALT has the high ability to do better in masonry tests, right? So as we talked about in part 1, let's go ahead and do a quick recap real quick. So the DeWALT DCD996 is a very interesting drill, mainly because on hammer drill function, it actually increases or picks up an additional 250 RPM, right? But also, unlike all the other drills that we've tested so far, it actually has the highest BPM, right? So BPM, it has peaks out at around 38,250 BPM. So to put that into perspective, the Gen 3 Milwaukee Gen 3 fuel has a BPM of 32,000. The Makita XPH07 has a BPM of 31,500, and the Makita XPH12 has a BPM of 30,000, right? And all of those drills, the Gen 3 fuel and the Makita XPH12 has a RPM up to 0 to 2,000, whereas the XPH07 has an RPM up to 2,100, whereas this drill has an RPM maxed out at 2,250, right? Therefore, this drill will do better on hammer drilling than those other drills, mainly because it does have that capacity, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at how this drill does with this bad boy Flex 9 amp hour battery, right? So in 20 volt mode, it's a 9 amp hour battery, and in flex volt mode, it's a 3 amp hour battery, right? But since this is a 20 volt tool, it is really a 9 amp hour battery. So let's go take a look. First run of the 5/16 inch by 6 inch lag test, 2.26 seconds, peak torque 127. Second run, 2.19 seconds, peak torque 110. Third run, 2.32 seconds, peak torque 127. It did still have to complete that challenge on speed 2. It was not able to do it on speed 3. And you take an average of the 3 runs, comes in at 2.26 seconds with an average of 121.33 inch-pounds, all right? Moving on to the half-inch lag test. First run, 6.49 seconds, peak torque 337. Second run, 6.51 seconds, peak torque 366. On the third run, 6.2 seconds and peak torque of 350, all right? It did have to do that challenge on speed 1, as you would expect. And if you average up the 3 runs, the average comes out to 6.40 seconds with a peak torque average of 351 inch-pounds. Moving on to the 3/4 inch auger test. First run, 4.37. Second run, 4.48. Average of 3 runs comes in at 4.43, or average of 2 runs comes in at 4.43 seconds. Moving on to the masonry test. So, first run, 4.14 seconds. Second run, 3.19 seconds. Third run, 3.14 seconds. And yes, I did actually go back and look at the footage to make sure I did watch it in that order. So it's interesting, mainly because it got faster and not slower. The average of the 3 runs comes in at 3.49 seconds, all right? So the peak torque measured across all those tests with this 9 amp hour flex volt battery, the peak torque comes in at 366 inch-pounds, okay? To complete the test, not necessarily the peak torque the drill can generate, right? So the DCD996 kitted with a 9 amp hour flex volt battery weighs in at a whopping 6 pounds, 9.7 ounces. Just to put that into perspective, the Milwaukee M18 Gen fuel, right, or Gen 3 fuel, kitted with a 12 amp hour battery weighs in at a whopping 6 pounds, 9.1 ounces. So that drill is 0.6 ounces lighter than this drill with this, okay? So let's go take a look at the total performance number, because that's what everybody really wants to know, right? So the total performance number of this drill with the 9 amp hour battery is 13.08 seconds. Bam. So that puts this drill currently in first place, right above taking the leader from the Milwaukee Gen 3 Fuel 2804, okay? So how does that really work out? I mean, it's just a whopping drill, I guess, if you want to say. And how did we get that number? We added up the averages of the 5/16 inch plus the half-inch lags and the 3/4 inch auger test. We did not include the 1/4 inch masonry test. If we do include them, I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous, because, you know, the DeWALT drill just seems to be ridiculously better than all the other ones that in the hammer drill mode, right? So go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard on the masonry test, right? So this drill with the 9 amp hour flex volt battery on the masonry test comes in at 3.49 seconds. That one is currently the fastest one for masonry on the leaderboard, followed up right behind by the drill with a 5 amp hour battery, which had 3.53, okay? So let's go ahead and, you know, just close out. And what can we really say about this, right? So the interesting thing about this drill is obviously the hammer drilling stuff that we already talked about, right? But short and recap, is it a great drill? Sure, it's one of the big boy flagship drills, right? Would I go ahead and out and buy this drill right now? Probably not really, mainly because they do have a, you know, an updated model, right? They have the pretty much the same drill with the Flex Phone Advantage. Then they have the pretty much same drill sold, you know, at the other store, what that's called Power Detect, right? So those are probably going to be better. We're going to have to get our hands on some of that stuff to see how much more power those things can generate than this one, and put it up against the stack here, right? In short, all in all, recap, it's a pretty big heavy duty drill. It has a single collar for clutch settings. It is electronic clutch, but the clutch settings is shared with the drill modes. It has a drill mode which has up to 2,000 RPM, and a hammer drill mode which goes up to 2,250 RPM. The BPMs on this drill is 38,250, and it has a special feature on the lighting here, whereas if you put it on mode 3 and you light up the light, it will stay on for 20 seconds, right? And is it a gimmick? I wouldn't say so. It's actually been very useful to me in several times, right? So Don't just like walk it off as a gimmick. If you want to, that's fine too, whatever you want to do, right? So the other thing to note about this is when you buy this drill, the belt clip that comes with it, at least the one that I got, does not work if you want to use the 9 amp hour flex volt battery. It is too short, hence, which is why we had to take it off, right? It's just too short. They need to make one that comes out wider because this drill is just, with this battery, it's just ridiculously big, right? So let's put it on there real quick and take a look at it. I mean, look at this. This is just ridiculous, right? I mean, what are you going to be doing this for? If you're going to be doing anything like a 1/2 inch lag test or anything like that, you should probably be using an impact wrench, right? I'm sure you could probably get away with an impact driver, but I would probably be using an impact wrench, right? What are we testing here? We're just really testing to see how the drills are in terms of like peak performance and all that kind of fun stuff. And as I tell you in almost all the videos, don't buy the tools just based on peak performance, right? Mainly because, you know, that's not the only thing that matters. You know, refinement, feel, quality, what battery system, and all that stuff is going to matter. If you don't care about that and you only want to buy, you know, the biggest battery drill in the market, go for it, right? So what can we say? That's all I can really say, right? So hope this video's helped you guys out. Hope it gives you at least some perspective in how the drills compare with actual numbers, depending on which battery you use. And I hope this video's helped you guys out. Let me know in the comments if it doesn't, or maybe what you want to see or whatnot. This video is not sponsored. Nobody sent us these tools, batteries, or any of that stuff. No one's paying us to do any of this. So have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.